The other day, the 37 Signals folks released a gem called Hotwire Spark, and it's a simple live reloading mechanism specifically built for hotwired applications. So that means it's built for the no build movement. If you tried Turbo Laravel before, you might have noticed that we do have a no build story for Turbo Laravel. It works great with Vite and all that, but we also have a no build route, a no build path you can take, and that uses import maps, tailwind CSS, and stimulus Laravel. But one thing that I really miss from the traditional front-end story of Laravel is the live reloading part. Laravel relies on Vite for the live reloading capabilities, and you can actually use Turbo with the Laravel Vite setup, and that should work great. But I really like the no build movement. But yeah, so this setup doesn't actually have live reloading. So if I have an application running, and this application, by the way, is the result of the Turbo Laravel bootcamp, so you can run the bootcamp yourself and you end up with the same application that I'm working on right now. And one thing that you miss, or that I miss the most, is this live reloading capability. So if we change over here from this gray to orange, let's say, you can see that I'm using Overmind over here to start some processes. I have defined a proc file with the process that I want to run, and my composer.json file. I'm using a composer run dev, but it doesn't actually use npms concurrently. It's just use Overmind because that's easier for me. I just download one binary and that's it, and then I can start processes using this proc file, and this way I don't actually have to depend on Node and all that. So no build, right? Okay, so we changed the color, tailwind rebuilt, but nothing actually changed on the UI. I have to manually refresh the page to see what changed. The same thing goes for text that we change. You're here and nothing actually reloads. We have to manually refresh. The same goes for CSS and JS and all that. And so that's not great. The 37 Signals folks released this gem called Hotwire Spark, so I figured it would be nice to have something like this for Turbo Laravel. And that's how I created this hot reloading gem. So if we give it a shot, let's copy this composer require and let's install that. And now, if we go to our application now and reload, nothing changed, but now let's go to the code again and change this to green, maybe, and go back to the application. Well, it's reloading for us automatically, so that's cool. Let's say it's emerald or emerald. It's changed again, so that's great. Let's change the text to here, and it all just works. So that's cool. And it's not just HTML, right? I can give this my dashboard. I can give this a CSS class, and then I can go to my CSS file and do a my dashboard, apply BG orange 800, and then let's make that important. And yeah, it all just works. So that's great. It also works for instance, we have a drop down over here. Let's say that this drop down actually uses stimulus. So there is a drop down controller for stimulus. And let's say that we are here, and every time that we toggle, we alert hello, like this. Now let's toggle, and well, we didn't actually reload the page, but the stimulus controller was replaced. So that's cool. Let's say instead of hello, we have hey, and now if we toggle it again, the message changed. So as you can see, the stimulus controller is live reloading on the page. So that's really cool. So we got live reloading for HTML, for CSS, and for JavaScript. One thing that I want to show is that this actually works for nested components. So in the index view, I'm requiring this, which is actually a turbo frame. So this makes a request to the chirps create route. And this route is where we actually render the form, right? So we have form over here, and we can change the text over here in this button to test. And then, as you can see, it actually doesn't work. So what actually happened here? So the thing that is going on is, by default, the hot reloading gem, it's using morphing. The turbo frame is not actually aware that things are morphing, so it doesn't actually reconnect, right? And that's mainly because of an issue that I think is related to turbo. Maybe I created an issue in Spark as well, so we can discuss it. You can fix it by making this route relative, for instance. So we can say absolute false, and then it will work. So if we go to the partial and we just remove the test from the button, you can see that it actually reloaded the turbo frame, right? So this is fixed for turbo frames. But one thing that you might have noticed is that the dates also changed over here. That's because we are using local time. So it's a package that I also built and maintain that lets you generate cache-friendly timestamps that you can include in your partials, and that gets rendered in UTC, and in the browser when the element boots, it's actually converted to the browser's local time. So users see the local time, even though we are storing in HTML the UTC time. So that's cache friendly and all that. But if we reload, in this case, we are actually morphing this, and that's not that friendly. So one thing that we can do, and one thing that the Hotreload lets you do is changing the HTML reload mechanism. So you can change from morphing to replace, and you can do that on a per page basis. So this is on the index. Let's create a X slot named head. I think it's meta actually. And then we can paste this snippet from the documentation, and then we can reload, and now it should be using the replace mechanism. So if we go to partial and we change this from test to just chirp, you can see that it's actually much HTML, much JavaScript friendly, let's put it like that. So the entire page actually made a turbo visit to the same route that we are in, and it just used turbo's replacing mechanism instead of using morphing, and that's cool. One thing that you can also enable is the logging. So if we go to our layout over here, you can see that right next to where we are placing the meta snippets, we can go to the config here and enable logging. So let's copy this and paste it maybe before that and save, and then we can come back, reload, and now let's try changing some content over here to test, and it all should work, and it gives you some logging so you can explore what actually got reloaded. So that's cool. But I'm not sure if you noticed this. We just installed the package and everything worked. There's no extra command. There's nothing that you need to run. How does that work? Well, the package is using something called server-sent events. So when the application boots with the package installed, we inject some JavaScript into your application. That's why this package is only meant for local development, but we do inject some JavaScript into your application for the live reloading part over here, hot reload and all that. And this JavaScript, all it does, this is configuration boilerplate, but when the document loads, on the content loader of the document, we start the server-sent events channel. And in that channel, we are starting a new event source. That's how server-sent event works. So there is a route called Hotwire Laravel hot reload SSE, which the browser makes a connection to that and start listening for events on that route. So we have one event for each type of reloading. And then we have a few reloaders over here. So we have a CSS reloader, a morph reloader, replace reloader, and a stimulus reloader. And I'm not going into details on how that works, but the code was actually mostly taken from the Spark gem. So as you can see over here, they have the same kinds of reloaders. I'm just reusing that JavaScript part over here. Anyways, so the server-sent event controller, the browser makes a request to this SSE route, and then it starts receiving events from the backend. On the backend, this route is actually very simple. So we just start a stream response, and then this is where we start the watchers, right? So this way you don't actually need to use Reverb or WebSockets or anything like that. And also you don't have to run an extra command like PHP artisan live reload start or anything like that. You just install the package, load the application in the browser, and it should just work. As you can see over here, we also have some different implementations for watchers. So let's go to the application, and then So as you can see, I actually have inotify enabled over here, and that's cool, but you didn't have to. Inotify, it's an optional dependency. So if you have inotify installed, we use the inotify file watcher. If you don't have that, there's a simple file watcher, but it's limited. Like it's actually more costly than the inotify version because we have to manually scan directories and look for modified files and look for removed files and added files and all that. If you have the inotify extension installed, it's much easier to deal with that kind of stuff because then we just start a watcher and the extension will notify our code of the events that happened on that directory. So if you can install the inotify extension to use this package, but you don't have to. Just note that. Also, you just install inotify and we use that, we favor that, but you can also force the package to use whatever watcher you want. If you don't want to use inotify, you can force it to use the simple watcher. Yeah, so yeah, that's the package. That's the Hotreload for Turbo Laravel. I hope you liked it. Give it a shot and let me know what you think. I'll see you when I see you. Bye.